Alrighty. Apologies, I was reducing the volume on the other side because I noticed there was a delay between my computer and my and my phone here. So I didn't want that thing where the delay comes and then you're waiting for 10 seconds on the end, which probably happened anyway. Okay, so let's jump straight into this presentation. And we've been looking at the quantum leap, and I'm looking at a very, very interesting topic relating to the mind. And before I get into the childlike state of mind, let me mention something very interesting. This morning, or rather this week, there's been a very interesting subject. In fact, the last 2 weeks there's been a subject around Indeni and the fact that they're putting it on care and maintenance, which means it's pretty much going. But it might survive, it might not, we don't know. The thing is 49 years old. I mean, it's about my age. Can you imagine? So, I mean, it's ancient. But whatever the case, people have done studies. They say it's viable. Others are like, no, it's not viable. My point is disruption is the norm. Technology, times, convenience, these things take over. And sometimes we become like the Childlike Bridge, and we're no longer useful at all. Massive, expensive project of worth absolutely nothing because the entire world shifts under our feet. And perhaps that might be the story with Indoni, who knows? But the point is we must remain relevant. And that's why we teach these concepts of quantum leaping, because we know that we live in an era and a time when things are very, very interesting. Now, we were looking at a very interesting component about the barriers that stop us from making a quantum leap or taking a quantum leap. And we were looking at the fact that the subconscious mind controls 95% of everything. We learned about the Reticular Activation System, whose function is to create a barrier. Now, this barrier works with the subconscious mind, which is like on autopilot, and the subconscious mind is like the elephant, and the conscious mind, which is our thinking, is like a little monkey on top of that elephant. You have that monkey has completely no control where the elephant goes. And that's why the elephant must be programmed beforehand, so that if it is programmed, then it will go where the monkey wants to go. So unfortunately, most people, in fact, all of us, cannot control the subconscious mind. That's why the key lies in programming it beforehand. Now, to achieve this programming, there is something called the childlike mind. All right, so today we're going into the analytical mind versus the childlike mind. Now, our minds are basically divided into two parts, namely the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. Logic, reasoning, creativity, our will and faith are in the conscious part of our mind. I told you about that, and it's 5% of the waking life that we are using these. Can you imagine? 48 minutes out of 16 hours is when we're using logic, reasoning, creativity, our will and faith. I was shocked for this. And then listen to this. 15 hours of the day, we're using beliefs, habits, behaviors, thoughts, and values. These things sit in the subconscious mind, and we have no control over their manifestation. And 15 hours of a day, we are in that space. So your beliefs are more powerful than your faith. That's why, God says you must have faith. So faith is the conscious part that manifests what you believe. No wonder the Bible says, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks, okay? By the time one reaches the age of 35, like I said before, these beliefs, habits, and behaviors are hardwired into a mind in a very powerful way. Now, between the conscious and subconscious mind is what is termed as the analytical part of the mind. It is also known as the Reticular Activation System, whose function is to weigh the past against the future, right against wrong, based on past experience. Very profound, very, very powerful. And usually ethics, values, choices, and decisions are all part of what the RAS learns. Now, the RAS behaves as it does basing on past learning. I'll say that again, ladies and gentlemen. The RAS, the Reticular Activation System, behaves as it does based on past learning. So it's always programmed to behave that way. When we are born, we don't even have an RAS. It's that crazy. In fact, we don't get an RAS until we are about 8 to 10. That's when it is developed. This learning is performed firstly by the conscious mind, and then once the neural pathways have been formed, the RAS takes over and performs all subsequent functions without the involvement of the conscious creative mind. And this is necessary, okay, so that we do not become overwhelmed with information overload. And that's where the whole concept of people that are, what's that word now? You know, there are people who are, what is it now? Autistic. They get that, because autistic people have no filter in their minds to separate the noise from the important data, and that's why they are overwhelmed. Many autistic people tend to do this if there's too much noise somewhere, because sometimes they are overwhelmed by the data and they cannot process this data. This is like, you know, 40 to 50 MB of data, and the mind only needs about 40 kilobytes per second. That's what it can process. So imagine 40 kbs as opposed to 40 mbps. Most humans, no human can handle that kind of data simultaneously coming in. That's what happens. So interestingly, the RAS does not understand right now. This is very interesting. Listen to this. The RAS does not understand right or wrong, good or bad, negative or positive, and only works based on what it has been taught by the conscious mind in the early formative years. These are between the years of 0 and 10, like I said. If these experiences were negative, it tends to block out or generate negative feelings that cause it to either block out completely the signal message or else cause our mind to generate negative emotions. If this type of association is prolonged into our 30s, it becomes very difficult to change our behavior, as it is now hardwired, like I earlier explained. And this makes change very difficult, even if consciously one does not like what they are exhibiting as a habit or behavior. I'm sure you've heard people saying, I don't know why I keep doing this thing. I don't like what I'm doing. The truth is they have been hardwired into that behavior. That's why they do it, because it's not something they think about. It's in the subconscious mind. It's this RAS and the elephant. They're the ones handling this. That's why they do what they do. Now, in order to change this undesired behavior and reaction, we need to bypass. We need to bypass this RAS, this analytical mind. And in order to do this well, we need to prime ourselves by accessing, listen to this one, the childlike state of mind and belief. I'll say that again. In order to do this well, in order to get rid of these undesired behaviors and reactions, we need to prime ourselves by accessing the childlike state of mind. Childlike state of mind. I want you to write in the notes, childlike state of mind. This is very profound, because I'm going to show you something many of you never realized when Jesus spoke it. So those of you on Facebook, write childlike state of mind. Those of you on Zoom, write childlike state of mind. This is a very pivotal truth, and that's why I'm emphasizing it. It's very pivotal. I want you to think about this before I sink into this, because I'm about to drop a bomb. Okay, that's what we say. I'm about to drop a bomb on you. Now, priming, the concept of priming is conditioning one in readiness for a particular reaction. That's what it's called, priming. In NLP, we talk about it. It's priming. It means you prepare someone strategically by pushing certain types of things repeatedly in them to set them in a certain space that will then solicit a particular reaction when the time comes for that reaction. This is what we're saying. We're saying you need to prime yourself by accessing the childlike state of mind. Now, listen to Matthew chapter 18, verse 1 to 4. This is profound. At that time, the disciples came to Jesus saying, "Who then is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven?" Listen to this. Then Jesus called a little child to him, set him in the midst of them, and said, "Assuredly, I say to you, unless you are converted and become as a little child, you will by no means enter the kingdom of heaven." That's profound. Therefore, whoever humbles himself as this little child is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. I find that so profound, because when you start thinking about that, that's deep. Jesus is saying, whoever humbles himself as a child. He also says, unless you are converted and become as a little child, meaning initially you were not as a little child, you're an adult, you're set in your way of thinking, you're set in your way of beliefs, but God is saying, become a child again. Isn't that deep? This is what we talk about. So I'm talking about here is the childlike state of mind. So we need to prime ourselves into the state of a child. Do you know a child trusts completely, ladies and gentlemen? A child does not question. My little daughter, well, even my son, he's a big guy now, he's 10, but I think I've primed him that way. But my little daughter is the one that's more interesting. My little daughter is actually saying, I now have 8 kwacha. She's so excited about this 8 kwacha. It's going to help her buy Hungry Lion and Barbie dolls. I don't know how you buy a Barbie doll and Hungry Lion out of 8 kwacha, but that's my daughter. And then she's working very hard to get her other tooth out. So she's like always shaking this tooth, but she'll remove it herself, but she wants to remove this tooth because when she removes the tooth fairy is going to give her a lot of money, which will be enough to buy the Barbie doll and the Hungry Lion and her gummy bears and chocolate, all in 8 kwacha, and whatever money comes from the tooth when she removes it. Now, that's so hilariously funny, because you and I as adults know the tooth fairy and Santa Claus are one and the same thing. They're all just fake, make believe. But you know what's amazing? The child believes 100% in the concept. And the child knows, they don't doubt. When you're leaving, all of us have got children, when you're leaving to go somewhere, your child will tell you, Mom, please buy me sweet, or please, I want, I like polony, like our daughter loves polony. Oh no, I like marmalade in my bread. They don't care about how that marmalade shows up. It's not their business. In fact, you'll be wasting your time trying to explain about marmalade and the challenges of the economy. You're wasting your time trying to explain the challenges of finding this marmalade. For the kid, mom and dad are God. And so when they ask, it's settled. For me, that's powerful. And that's what childlike faith is. It doesn't start asking the how. The how is not part of the vocabulary. It's about what is it, how, where, what is it, and what do we do with it? That's it. But they're not interested in how it's going to happen. That's childlike faith, ladies and gentlemen. That's the concept every time all of us are trying to learn every single day, that this thing about the childlike faith is what we need. Now, let's go deep into this. You're going to see there's a deep, powerful science to this. It will blow you away. Now, did you know that in order to change the programming in our subconscious mind, one must hack? That's the word. We must hack into the mind and do several things. They must first eliminate the barrier. That barrier is the RAS. This RAS is a powerful barrier. The RAS is not the strong man. The strong man is the subconscious mind, the elephant. That's the strong man. But the RAS is the barrier. The RAS is what controls the subconscious mind. So if the elephant is the subconscious mind, then its brain is the RAS. I know that sounds hilariously funny. The monkey on top of the elephant is you. And there is nothing you can do to control this elephant or its mind. But thank God there's a way we can hack it. All right? So let's see how that happens. Now, there's only one time when this barrier completely disappears in an adult. Did you know that? Yeah, there's one point in our state of mind when the barrier goes away. It's not there at this particular point. And it is called in science the theta brainwaves phase. Theta, that's a Greek word. There's a lot of Greek words flying around right now. Delta, Omicron, Alpha, Beta. So I'm talking about theta. Theta, those of you who did maths, theta. It's a circle with a line across. That's theta. All right. Now, this is when the subconscious mind is suggestible. And it is the reason why we speak about childlike state of mind, or here's the word, suggestibility. You can write that down in the notes. suggestibility. Suggestibility is a state of being suggestible. It's a state of being open to things that are told to you, and then you listen to them, and then you go on to act them out. That's called suggestibility. Now, when the mind is in the state of suggestibility or a childlike state of mind, one can create, listen to this, new suggestions. So we're saying, get into a state of mind which is like a child. And then when you're in that state of mind like a child, you then create new suggestions. Let me take you back again to scripture from Jesus. Listen to this in verse 3. Listen to this. He said, assuredly, I say to you, unless you are converted and become as a little child. Sure. So I'm not making this stuff up. In the kingdom of God, the key to total transformation and manifestation of potential within the kingdom of God is suggestibility. That's why people who've understood this concept realize that when Jesus said, go ye into the world and do what? And baptize people in the name of the Father, the Son, and make disciples. What is a disciple? A disciple is basically a student. A disciple is someone who abandons their former ways of life for a new way. So they undergo, here's the word, nobody likes the word, but it's true. They undergo indoctrination. They undergo reprogramming. They undergo an erasure of old ways for new ways. The equivalent of discipleship is when you join the army. Because when you join the army, what do they do first? They break you. They get rid of this old mold, this mess that you have, this personality that they get rid of all that. And then they reform you. That's why we talk about transformation, right? They reform you into this new mold, this new state. I talked about this last time. So that's what it is. So here's what I'm saying. This is when the subconscious mind is suggestible, and that's why we speak about the state. When the mind is in the state, you can command new suggestions. Okay, they become new commands by which the RAS operates. So when done correctly, beliefs, habits, and behaviors can completely change. Ask any NLP practitioner and coach. It is possible to stop an alcoholic from their habit of drinking alcohol using NLP. Now, people are afraid of NLP because they don't understand this power you can have over the mind of a person. But it's real, it works. Okay? So we can go into the mind and completely change messed up beliefs. We can scrape all that stuff out. You can get rid of debilitating habits. You can eliminate bad behavior and replace them with powerful, positive attributes. So the key is to get into the state of mind and then change the programming. And it is this factor, like I said, that NLP quotes as the second of the 3 keys to transformation, namely changing your beliefs. Now, I am going to be going deep, and I'm warning you, in our next lesson, we are going deep. And when I say deep, I mean deep, deep, deep into exactly the science behind how we change that inside programming. I remember when I began when I met Dr. Nelly back in the day, and then, Dr. Nelly got us into Francois's class and stuff. She was a very instrumental person because she indicated, Rev, with the things you know and with the kind of stuff you're doing, there is a kink in the pipe. That's the term I like nowadays. There's a kink in your pipe. NLP is going to sort the kink. And I was like, okay. No. She said, I'm serious, Rev. You need this. Just make it a point. Be part of what we're doing. I'm going to make this happen. So she's the one that then introduced NLP to me, and I began to study it. She's our coach. She's a master coach, actually, and went through the entire training. And you know what? The kink went, because the kink was definitely in the pipes. So in our next lesson, we're going to go into some aspects, the science behind this childlike state. Why is this childlike state so profound? All these super athletes, whether it's a Cristiano Ronaldo, whether it's the great Usain Bolt, whether it's Michael Phelps, any great athlete out there, Tiger Woods, all these great guys have actually mastered what I'm saying. They have gone deep into their subconscious mind, and they have reprogrammed the elephant. And now the elephant operates at a totally different level. Ali, it's good to know that you're studying NLP. It's very important, my brother. We need it. And it's not just a case of studying. You need a coach, because there's some deep things within NLP that require a coach to walk you through, lest you do them wrong. Because even the NLP lessons do warn that when things are done incorrectly, you can have not very desirous results. So it's important to work with a coach, to work with someone who's already a practitioner, who is a certified coach, like certified by the leading bodies. We are certified under the Bandler group, the proper institute of NLP. And so it's very important you work under such. Here in Zambia, our master coach is Dr. Nelly. So it's very important to work with those, because then the programming, you're walked through that programming properly. You learn exactly what reframing is. You learn exactly how recasting is done. You learn exactly how to program correctly. You learn how to achieve this childlike state of mind. You learn how to begin programming your mind using subliminal strategy. So all these things you will learn. We will teach, we will walk you through in a brief way, but you will get to really get the gist of it later on. So on that note, we are done. And those of you who are interested, I see some comments on Facebook, just get in touch with me via the messenger system. There's a price to it, by the way. Anybody who's interested in this, you pay money, it's not free. So like I was saying, we are very glad you are part of our class. And at this point, next week, I'm going into the deep end of the pool, and we're going to look at the brain waves themselves. You will learn the science behind brainwaves. You're going to understand the concept of mesmerizing. You'll understand the concept of self-hypnosis and all these ideas that help to completely change the programming in the elephant's head and completely hack the Reticular Activation System. So on that note, Doc is not able to speak too bad because she's the practitioner of these things. She would have been great to come in here. So I'm going to throw this back to Auntie Sylvia to wrap us up and close us for today. And we definitely look forward to tomorrow on another subject. Auntie Sylvia, over to you to do the wrap up.
Thank you so much. I just have that mentality of I can, despite all these things that you have explained that make us not to do things. I'm going to have a childlike mind so that all these things, all the noise that are coming, I already have the things that I've planned to do. So that is what I've gotten out of this topic today. And I just encourage everyone of us here to have a childlike mind, which is malleable, which is, it's not getting us to do the thing, to have this difficult mind, these noises that come to our mind, which says, I cannot do it because I don't have enough money. Let's get to do things by just getting organized, picking the imperative things that you have to do today. Make one of them to have a childlike mind. Make one of your 4 important things to listen to your inner self, to listen to these things that make sense for us so that we are able to do things, we're able to action, we're able to be goal-directed, action-oriented, and get those two people that are going to encourage you, because we all need an encouragement when we do things. This is how come we come on these 7:30 calls. It's just simply encouraging our things of the goals we want to achieve. And I can assure you that just by getting 2 people on board, then we got 4 people on board, then we got the whole team that we were going to deal with. And if we can only get 2 people, those 2 people get another 2 people, you're going to make a good team so that you're going to be doing the things that you want on a daily basis, and we keep on taking them. So let's go out there and take action. Have a good morning.
Wonderful. God bless you tomorrow, Doc. Auntie Sylvia is going to be with us, taking us through another session within the concept of networking for success. God bless. Take care, people. Cheers.